Cool. So now we're able to go back in now and start our blend. So what I'm going to be using is a little brush, right? You can get these anywhere. These are good for like cleaning off any hair that sticks to the scalp, especially when you're blending. So you'll probably see a lot of colors with these sometimes. Okay. So we're going to work with in a zero. So the clip is going to be closed, and we're going to work with more of a medium fade. So the difference between a low, medium, and high fade is just where it sits in relation to the bone structure. Okay. So if this is the occipital bone, right, any blend that lives below that occipital bone is going to be a lower fade. Any blend that lives right on or slightly above the occipital is going to be a medium. And any blend that lives at least 1 finger's width above the occipital is going to be more of your higher fades. Now, how do you determine which one is best? It's going to be based, number one, on the guest reference, and then number two, on the bone structure itself. If I have a guest with a very protruding occipital bone, I don't want to place a blend right on that occipital because it's going to create more of a line that can sit in the haircut. So I want to base that really off of what my guest not only wants, but what their bone structure tells me is best. So as I'm working with the clipper, I want to hold it like it's a remote control, okay? And so when I'm working just with my fingers in my hand, not my wrist, right? So notice the difference between here and here. And a couple of reasons for that is when you're working with more of a flick of the wrist, you tend to take the line up higher and higher because you're taking those hard swoops. By working with more of your fingers in your hand, you're able to detail and to work into small areas within the haircut. And that's really important. If you find yourself consistently always working with your wrist, it could be that the clipper you're working with is too heavy and you want to find something that's a little bit lighter. All right, so you want to make sure you're always in practice that. Practice just moving your fingers in your hand rather than your wrist. When I was in school, one of the things that helped me out a lot with gaining more dexterity was finger waves, actually. And so by working with more finger waves, I was able to practice that. It helped me in a lot of different areas. So now that we're going into the actual haircut itself, I want to keep this as low as I can around the ear, especially because Steve doesn't have a lot of area here to work with. But we're going to work with more of a medium fade. So my first step here is to create my starting point all the way around the head, basically. Okay? And so notice here, I'm just starting barely over the hairline, because what I want to make sure that I have is consistency and also give myself enough room to blend. So for instance, if I were to take this line all the way here, I would have no room to blend the haircut. Okay, so I want to make sure I leave myself enough room. So here I'm just going barely across that ear. Right, and so now that we work into the back, into the nape area, I'm going to go right where that occipital bone would be if Steve had an occipital bone. All my guests have a name, even the right? So here as I work around the back, I always have just this little bit of a dip. Right? If you've ever noticed, maybe you've seen barbers on Instagram and things of that nature, is that little bit of a dip here. And what's that for? Is you have the most hairs per square inch in the occipital area of your bone structure. And what tends to happen is if you don't leave yourself enough room to blend, you can end up taking this area too high or not blending it well enough. So what tends to happen, maybe if you've ever seen a guy with a nice haircut and then there's a little line that sits right in the back, oftentimes it's because the starting point wasn't placed well enough. Right? So always keep that in mind when you're working. And then also pay attention to the curve of that starting point, right? It's not a sharp line, because if I replace this too sharply, you would see that within the haircut, okay? And so now we're gonna turn and do the exact same thing on the opposite side, right? So here, I wanna just work with more of that roundness. of the bone structure here. Same thing here is I'm working around that here. Just being very careful here. And so my whole thing is like I like to complete one area. I want to complete one area before I move to the next, right? And so by making sure that I have this completely done before I move to into the blending portion is going to be important because it's going to keep me from doing double work, right? And having to come back and bring something later. Okay. So now that we have our starting point finished, now we're going to work into the actual haircut itself. Okay. And so one good rule of thumb you guys can always use, especially if you're just learning how to blend or how to fade, is a simple system of whatever length I use. If I go up 2 lengths, that's going to create my transition. And so when we're talking about a transition, that's the area where the haircut is actually starting to blend or to move from dark to light. And so that's what we're going to focus on right here. It should be about 2 fingers width, but notice we're still going to be able to leave adequate length at the top of segment 2 so that we can create that shape. So the shape is going to live here at the top of segment 2, and the shading is going to live within the middle or right in segment 2. So as I'm going to go into, since we're using 0 on the sides, I'm going to go up 2 lengths and I'm going to work with the number 2 guard, and I'm going to start with it in the open position. Right, so when the teeth are closest together, that's the closed position because you have the steel blade and then you have the cutting blade that's in the front. When they're closest together, that's the closed position. When they're further apart, that's the open position. Open is going to leave more hair and closed is going to take more hair. So as I start this, because I want to make sure I get the right length, I'm going to start with it open because I can always close it to make it shorter, but I can't take off or add more hair on if I cut too much. So I'm going to start with it in the open position, and I'm just going to create a little bit of like a 2-finger width area, or if you have really small fingers, it can be the width of a clipper blade, just to start to create that transition area. So as I'm working around the ear, notice how I work one direction this way and then one direction that way. So I'm just kind of creating like a little X over here. And still the same thing here, working with just my fingers. Using my little brush in order to move any hair out of the way. And so what I want to show you here is that when I'm going over the ear, when I'm going over the ear, the clipper is angled, right? Notice how the clipper is angled so that the teeth that are at the top, they're not even really touching the hair, right? So if I were to go this way, I would cut all of that length off and move the teeth back up here. So just making sure that I notice that I'm angling that clipper when I'm going around. So if I see that this length is the open position isn't getting what I want done, I can start to close it and go right back over that area. And so a lot of times, this is where a lot of people will take up too much time with their fading. It's because once one thing isn't working, they stick with it, right? They're still going over and over and over. If you find or you see that something's not working, switch it up, right? Move to the next guard, close the clipper down. Right? One of the things when it comes to these type of haircuts or shorter haircuts is if you're working in a salon, this is going to be a great opportunity for you to take male guests to bring value to the salon, right? And you're able to take these guests in between color services. So let's say if you're working with a color service and how much is the color process? 35 minutes. Use that for an example. You're able to fit in another guest, a short haircut guest, so that you're able to add more revenue and make more money. At the end of the day, that's really what this is all about. We want to be busy behind the chair, and we want to be valuable to our, not only our salon, but to our guests, right? So now if you notice here, I have my 3 areas already kind of outlined out. I have my starting point. This is my transition area, or what some people might call the fade band, 2 fingers width. But I opened it up a little bit in the back to 2, 3 fingers simply because there's more density in this area. And so now as we're going to blend this haircut in, we have two lines that we need to blend out. We have to blend out the bottom line, and then we have to blend out this top line. Okay? And one of the things that we want to make sure is that we're blending out the bottom line first, in that it allows us to be able to still create the shape here at the top of segment 2. So now I'm going to go into with the 1.5 guard, and I'm going to focus just on that bottom line. I'm going to start with it in the open position. And so this is where it takes a lot more control of the clipper. So notice here when I'm working a lot with the corners of the blade, right? So I'm going to be doing a lot of chipping. This is called chipping. When you're really just working right with the corner of the blade, you can kind of see there as I'm working over to here what that looks like. And so you have to have more of that lighter wrist, lighter control. So notice the strokes are going to get a lot shorter as I'm working to blend out this bottom line. And so I'm going to use my brush just to kind of clean the area. And then once I've seen that this clipper guard is going to give me all it's going to give, then I'm going to go down to the next one. So this will be a number 1. Same process, I'm going to start with it in the open position. And so notice here, as I'm chipping here, just using the corners of that blade, right? Making sure that I'm not going too deep into the blend. I really just want to attack that line and come out. So you should be working with a slight C-shaped stroke to your clipper. Okay? Just using my fingers and my hand to control the clipper, not using my wrist. Because if I use my wrist, I might take this line up way too high and mess up all of the work that we already accomplished in this area. Okay? So same thing here. Now, once I've seen that this is giving me all it's going to give them, then I'm going to go into something even shorter. Okay, now I'm going to go in with my half guard, or maybe if you have a different clipper brand, maybe it's a 0. All right, and still the exact same thing here, using the corners of the blade to kind of chip away at that line. Just follow chipping. And so same thing here as I work around that ear. I just want to soften this area. And you can notice the same thing here as I work around the ear. The clipper is angled in that you don't even, the top teeth aren't even really hitting the hair at all. I'm just really focusing on the bottom teeth to really work around that ear so that I can blend that out. The same thing here as I work towards the back. I'm using my brush to kind of knock off all of that excess hair so that I don't mess up with have hair sticking to the head shape. And so once I've done all I can with this, then I'm going to go into just the open clipper. So if you notice here, we're just really working down from long to short when it comes to these different lengths. And I'm going to switch my tool here just a little bit. Working with my other clipper. And the only reason that I switched the clipper is because the teeth on this one are a little bit longer. So it enables me to kind of extend the blend just a little bit more and focus in on certain areas. Okay. Little things here. And so this is where the refinement process of that haircut is coming in, right? So I want to make sure that I'm looking at this haircut from every angle, right? Because your guest is going to be looking at it from every angle. So I want to hold the head down, look at it from the back. I want to look at it from the side, and angle it over to the side. And so that's why all the time you go, whether you get into a barbershop or you go to a barbershop, you'll see your barber always looking at your haircut from different angles. And that's why. It's because they want to make sure that they see it from every different perspective so that they blend it very well. Okay. Same thing here. I'm just kind of looking and paying attention. And also, one thing to notice here is that if you can see it, we're still maintaining that shape towards the top of segment two. And I'm going to work on this ear a little bit more. Same thing here is we're working down into the nape, or into the occipital area. I want to focus on those little small lines that I might see within that haircut, and making sure that I get those nice and clean. So I see a little refinement here I want to touch up, so that then we'll go into blending the top line. Okay. Cool. So then now, as we're going into blending the top line in, what we're going to do for that is use clipper over comb. So we're going to go ahead and clipper over comb. I could work with a larger guard, but what will tend to happen is I'll cut all of this shape out. So what I want to make sure I'm doing here is going in clipper over comb, kind of similar to what we did when we started, and I'm going to work in just a little bit shorter now. Okay, turn this guy up. And so you can kind of see just that little bit of a, kind of how it hangs over and bulks out right there. I don't want to do that, because if I left it that bulky, it would push the length out from the top, and then I'll end up with something that looks too like kind of light bulbish, right? So I don't want something that's light bulb. I want something that's really kind of flat against the head shape. So here is, I'm going to still, same thing as we did before. My teeth are going to be pointed straight up towards the ceiling, and I'm just going to cut that little bit of length right towards the top of segment two. Okay. So you guys can see it, regard it. Okay. And so that's really all I'm focusing on here, is I'm going to work across. And then what you'll notice here as well is like there's a little bit of length right here that I see, but when I'm looking at it from my shape perspective, it looks pretty flat. But there's a little bit of length that I see right here. Oftentimes, this is where we would get a little thinning scissor happen, right? So what I want to make sure of is that instead of working with a thinning scissor, blending scissor, or whatever that looks like, because those aren't always best for every guest, I could work more of a vertical motion with my clipper just to refine those little areas. And so what this does is it softens the darker weight that I might see within the haircut without taking too much of the length, okay? And so what this does, like I said earlier, it keeps you from using the thinning scissor on every single guest. And because a lot of times what I see oftentimes is that, you know, a lot of future professionals and stylists as well don't know the appropriate time when to use a thinning scissor. They feel like it's always used when you're blending, which isn't always done that way, okay? And so here, as I work around the bone structure this way, right, all I'm going to do is continue that exact same motion as we did before. And then really all I'm doing is adding this length or matching it right into what we've already just been cutting. And so what this allows for me to do is to create that shape and shade all in the exact same haircut. I see a little area I want to touch up. And so whenever I'm working with more of that vertical clipper over comb with my comb, or my clipper, excuse me, the clipper is in the open position, right? I want to make sure of, if I want to take the weight, if I'm removing bulk, I'm going to work horizontally, right? If I'm refining the bulk, I'm going to work vertically. So once again, if I'm removing bulk, I'm going to work horizontally. If I'm refining or softening any type of bulk, I'm going to work vertically. And so what you'll see is that if you give this method a try, you're going to see your haircuts, you're going to blend a lot nicer, and then you're going to be able to see a much better grow out for your guests. So if you notice here, look at the difference between the two sides. This one, all we did was just cut some bulk down, but this one's already completed with the blend, and you can see exactly what that looks like, right? And that's what we want to be creating for our guests, and also when we're working on the clinic floor as well. Okay, so now we're going to work and do the exact same thing on the opposite side. Now, one question I always get is why don't you go all the way around the head shape? Really, that's just a preference thing. What I've found for myself over the years is that right when I get to the round of the head on the opposite side, I tend to sometimes lose or get lost in the sauce, right? So I always kind of work from the right side to the center back, and then I come back and meet myself in the middle. And what that does, it allows for me to adjust any kind of length that I might need to adjust here in the back. But there's no right or wrong for that. It's really just a preference of what works best for you. Okay? But in this process, what we're doing now is the exact same thing, kind of like a math problem, right? If you remember you were in school that, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. We're going to do the exact same thing to this side. So we're going to start in that open position. We've got 2 bars. I'm going to take this length off.
Can I ask you a couple of questions while you're doing
Sure, go ahead. Yeah.
One of them was, when you are going in with each guard, are you closing it little by little as you're trying to get out of line?
Yes, 100%. I start with it in the open position, and then as I see what it's doing, it'll let me, I will then move it slowly, right? I don't necessarily go from open all the way to close, because what if I needed it halfway, right? And then I've just cut it too short. So yes, I do move it slowly as I work. Great question. So same thing here. Right now I'm still working with it in the open position, but as I can kind of see, I want to soften that a little bit. So now I'm going to go to about halfway. I want it just a little bit shorter. And the best thing about doing it from this way is that I'm able to use the opposite side, as a guide. Okay. All right, so once I've established that, then I'm going to go into with my 1.5 guard in the exact same process. Now, when it works from here, you could do 2 things. You could come back or start from the side, or you can just blend it straight over from the center back. It's really based up to you. Sometimes once I start getting into that shorter length, I will go back into the center back so that I can use my first side as a guide for myself.
Brandon, I have another question. A good time. For our future professionals, do you recommend them, as they're building their kit, to get more than one clipper? Because we're seeing you kind of go between a few different options here. What's your recommendation there?
Yeah, what I would say is the tools that you have in your kit, you're able to do this exact same haircut with the tool that's given to you guys in your kit. I think once you learn and understand the movements of the clipper and things of that nature, I would never tell someone that's poor, hey, go buy a whole new set of tools, because the tools that you have in your kit have value, and you need to be able to work with those. Me personally, I use different tools simply because, in most part, to be honest, each one has a specific purpose. Just like a stylist, no stylist has one pair of scissors. I don't know of any, even myself, I don't have one pair of scissors. So each clipper itself is kind of set differently to certain needs that I have. So like this one, the blade itself is a little bit shorter, so I'm able to work a little tighter as opposed to the other one. But I would just say really it's based on, number one, once you learn the mechanics of it with the tool that you have, I would definitely suggest later on in your journey, right, investing in some more tools, but investing wisely. Like find something that works for you rather than what you might see somebody else use. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm. So as you notice here, as I work back on the other side, I have my one guard on, it's now closed, and I'm just really working that small line at the bottom of the blend, okay? And so then I'm gonna work into
my half guard now. I'm going to just focus. You can kind of see exactly where I was on the opposite side, and then where I'm going to go into on my non-dominant side and continue to blend that in. And so as the length gets shorter, the strokes become that much tighter, right? So you notice my hand is moving a lot faster and a lot more swift as opposed to when we first started, I was working a lot more of a longer stroke. And using my brush, working around the ears. So I want to make sure that I have all of that consistent. We're going to work in here just about just the blade itself. Before we move into the so something like this behind the chair, timing wise, I mean, really your average haircut should be about 30 minutes, 30, 35 minutes, maybe a little longer if we have some, issues that we have to look around. But you really want to shoot for that 30-minute mark. Right? Now, if you pricing and all of that stuff is a little bit different, and some places charge you, but you really want to be shooting for that 25, 30-minute mark. I personally book out for 40-minute appointments, and the reason I book out for 40 minutes is because I allot myself not only the 30 minutes for the haircut, but 10 minutes for any type of style consultations, any type of adjustments I might want to make, or any type of service add-ons, right? And so I'm able to use that extra 10 minutes to suggest services maybe for next time. Maybe if they want to add in a beard trim or a quick little beard color or something like that, I allot myself that time, or just to style and finish, or personally, honestly, just to connect better with my guests, right? Just find out what's going on in their life, find out, what's going on with them, and staying connected with them. So me personally, I book out for 40-minute appointments. The only time I will change that is if I'm working in like a holiday season, and I know that everybody's trying to get in, and during that time, I'll lock it into about 25 or 30-minute appointments. And so that lets me know I have to work a little bit swifter and when I'm working. So, and when it comes to speed, one of the things that I always tell people is that when it comes to barbering, getting faster isn't about like moving your hands faster. It's not about switching your guards faster. It's about cutting out unnecessary steps. So how you guys can get better now, even during this time, is find the areas where you're taking too much time, right? And one of the first areas that I always see, especially when it comes to shorter hair, is the style and finish, right? When you're style and finishing a haircut of this style, it should only be taking you about 4 to 5 minutes to style and finish, right? And if you're taking any longer than that, for the learning leaders that are on the call, that's a great idea for a boot camp for your future professionals. And that shorter hair, like we do a great job of style and finishing longer hair, round brush, things of that nature. But oftentimes we have an issue when it comes to shorter hair and style and finishing. So if you want to get faster and cut out unnecessary steps, that's the first step I would say go to is look at your style and finish and how long that's taking. So what I want to look at now is just the balance between the two sides. And I want to look, and what I'm doing is I'll look at it from the front view, and I can see just a little bit of area here that kind of puffs out just a little bit more. So it's not necessarily full, but it's just area that I want to refine just a tad bit more so that I can have continuity between both sides. So a little bit in.
Brandon, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
If someone were to lose their personal haircut and have some darker spots, what would you suggest for a correction of this?
Yeah, so if you lost your space or lost your area in the haircut, go back to where you started. Like kind of just retrace this step. Kind of like if you were cutting longer hair and you lost your guy, right? What would you do? You would go back to where the last guy was at. And so figure out, number one, what is the haircut they're wanting, right? You should already kind of know that. But then what's the steps that you are taking? Find out where the steps that you are taking went wrong and correct it. So let's say, for instance, if I made a mistake and like just gashed it out right here in the back of the head, I would then have to make sure I go back and move everything higher up to be able to blend that in. So that's one of the things that you want to make sure you're paying attention to is if you make a mistake, that's okay. I mean, I've done it. I've been behind the chair and moved the wrong direction and cut one area too short. But what you don't want to do is make any type of movements or just like making faces like, oh my gosh. Even if you're on the clinic classroom and you're talking to your learning leader, it doesn't feel good for the guest for you to say, hey, I just put a hole in their head, right? You want to make sure that you're finding out exactly where you went wrong and then just kind of backtrack a couple steps and you can get back on track using them. Okay? Great question, though. All right. So here, as we're finishing this up, and so what you'll see here is that when we work on the sides, you can see how it just kind of flattens those sides out a little bit more, right? And then now we're actually ready, we would be ready to cut the top, right? And so the sides are all kind of balanced together. You can kind of exactly see the silhouette, like not only here in the back as well, right? So I'm paying attention to the blend here on the sides. I'm looking for that silhouette as well. And so what I'm looking for in that is I want to look for any type of like bumps that might stick out or little areas that aren't actually coming into the shape as well as I want it to, because what that lets me know is that there's more hair there than what needs to be, right? And so by still using clipper over comb instead of working in with a guard, what that allows me to do is to correct whatever area I might have without cutting a hole into it. So for instance, if I have a little area here that I want to lighten and touching up, if I go in with another guard and try to hit that, I might place a whole nother line in the haircut, and then I gotta, kind of retrace my steps and go back. So just being aware of that information is going to be really important. So even if this were a guest who wasn't going to cut the top at all and just wanted to get their sides cut, you can kind of see exactly how that haircut was still an existing haircut would flow right into the sides, right? So I don't have to worry about anything like that. So if I'm like fit it down, and I still have that shape on the sides, you get a little wet there, right? So you can kind of still see on that one side here, it still blends in together without it being cut over too short, right? So even if this were a guest who just wanted the sides cut and wanted to maintain the top, you're still able to do that with the shape that you have, okay? So what we're gonna do next time, or next Thursday, is we're gonna go into a shape on the top. So if we can go back to the keynote real quick.
It's coming.
All right, that's cool. All right, so what I want you guys to do is to reflect, right? You're going to take away, what are your 3 biggest takeaways from today, right? Maybe it could have been, maybe this was one of your first, shorter haircutting classes and the head shape information was something that was new to you. Maybe the blending information. So what are 3 things that you took away from this class today? And what I want you guys to do is, number 1 is you're going to write those down. And then I want you guys to definitely share that with your learning leader that's over the class that you're in. Okay, so you're going to have an opportunity to kind of discuss with one another in your Zoom classes what are some of the takeaways you took from that. And the next slide. Okay, and so your commitment and home play, you guys are going to have some, right? So what I want you to do is find your favorite type of fade, whether it be on Instagram, whether Google Images or whatever like that. And what's the breakdown of that haircut? Is it a taper, right? We talked about that taper being just in the temple and in the nape areas, or is it a fade like we worked with today? And then also, if you can, try to tell me exactly what type of fade, right? Is it sit lower on the occipital bone? Does it sit right across the occipital bone? Is it a medium, or is it a high fade? And what I want you guys to do is send that picture, okay, and your breakdown to me on my Instagram page, right? At Barber PhD. It should be on the screen there that you can see, because I want to see what you guys are thinking. And then it also gives me an opportunity to coach and redirect you guys if you have anything like that. And then on top of that, what I want you guys to do is the haircut that we're going to do on top, what would you like to see, right? What would help you, what hairstyles that you're seeing that you can need help with, right? Because I want this, our time to be something that you guys can definitely gain from me, and that obviously that I can gain from you guys as well. So a couple of things there that you're going to do. You're going to find you a fade on Instagram. You're going to break down this a taper or a fade. You're going to send that to me along with any type of inspiration for something that you might want to see throughout these classes on Thursday. Okay. So with that being said, I think we have some time for some Q&A.
Yeah, we have a few questions here that I didn't get to. Number one is, how would you tackle a client that has a cowlick right at the hairline or on the side?
Yeah, so number one is going to be based on what style that they're wanting. Okay, that's going to be the number one question. So for instance, if they have a they have a cowlick that pushes back, but they're wanting something like this, right, where it goes over the front hairline with that little bit of a fringe, that's probably not going to be the best hairstyle for them, depending upon how strong that cowlick is. I mean, there's a couple things you can do, like relax it or just to soften it, but that's probably not going to be the best idea for them, because the maintenance of that is going to be really difficult for them to keep up at home. So if they have a cowlick on the front or on the side, the best thing to do, what I always do in those situations, is I lightly mist the hair down right when they're first getting into the chair. I turn them around to the chair and I comb their hair in those directions that the cowlick is sitting, so that they can see how their hair really wants to lay. If you really are confused about how a cowlick is going to react, just mist it down with a little bit of water, and that hair is going to go exactly where it should go. And then you have to determine what hairstyle would be best for that guest based on that, and keep them involved, right? So I'll turn them to the mirror, I'll hand them a hand mirror, and we're going to break that down together, because my whole thing when it comes to consultations behind the chair is that this is a collaboration, right? I want you to get exactly what it is that you need. So.
Thank you. When would you use clipper over comb on overly coarse, dense, curly hair, other than a flat top, for an example?
Yeah, so you would use that when you're creating shape in the same way. The only difference is how you move the comb inside the hair, right? So for instance, if I'm working with hair that's curlier, I'm not going to put as much tension on that hair. I really want to just slide that comb into the curls of that hair to create that shape, right? If I pull too much of that curl, the curl's going to revert to a shorter length, right? So I just want to kind of graze that comb right against the ends so that I'm able to cut the curls and create the shape. So like flat tops are a perfect example. Those are coming back in style, like the flat tops with a curl spun, curlier hair and things of that nature. So you're able to create shape within the haircut, but just making sure that you're not pulling too much with the comb. Because if you pull too much with the comb, you're actually going to end up making the hair a little bit shorter than what it needs to be. But clipper over comb is definitely a technique you can use on curlier hair.
And how would you handle a client or a guest who wants a fade with a receding hairline?
Yeah, I would say that the number one thing is, find out where it is, how bad it is, number one. And then number two, manage the expectations, right? I think that's the biggest thing is when it comes to a lot of male guests, they've been getting their haircut maybe at the same place for 20 years and no one's ever told them that, hey man, this probably isn't the best haircut for your bone structure or for your hairline or for things of that nature. So I find that educating the guests on different options is going to be really important, and then give them the opportunity to decide if they want that. Like, hey, yeah, I know my hairline's trash, but I still want this haircut, right? So it's really just based on the education that you give them, and because a lot of times you'll be surprised, guys will be going 10, 15 years and no one ever said anything to them about it. So just give them that education first and then allow them to make the decision from there.
And we have a few questions about rotary clippers, so I'll list these out. Rotary clippers, can you cut what hair with these? And then can you go over them in a little bit more detail they said in general, what type of clippers is the one with 2 rotating blades?
Okay, so first thing is, can you cut with them on wet hair? You can. Should you? Probably not. Actually, not probably. No, I would never suggest cutting clippers on wet hair, because you got to think about it. What does hair do when it's wet? It expands, right? So when I cut that hair when it's wet, that's not what it's going to look like when it dries. It's going to be shorter, okay? Because it's going to shrink back in. So I would always say that anytime you need to do any clipper cutting, it should always be on dry hair. So notice, like for a haircut like we did today, I would do all of that dry and then work into the top and cut that wet. All right, and then I wouldn't go back and refine anything on the sides until that hair was completely dry. So that's number one. Rotary clippers themselves, and you're talking about the clipper that has 2 moving blades. I'm not 100% sure of what that means, but or what they're referring to. But on a pivot motor clipper, the blade moves in 2 directions, right? So for instance, a blade like this one, right, that's on this clipper, it only moves in one real direction. Or excuse me, on a magnetic motor clipper, it only moves in one direction, kind of like a slinky, right? So the clippers that you get in your kits that are magnetic clippers, they move in one direction. So if I had a slinky in my hand and I pulled it and out and it went back, it would retract. So the blade is going back to the magnet each and every time, hence magnetic motor clipper. So it goes away from the magnet, goes back to the magnet. That's why when you're cutting, sometimes you hear that loud like noise, is because the hair is getting caught into the clipper while the blade is on the way back to the magnet. Pivot motor clippers actually move a little bit differently because they're actually moving on a rotating pivot. Same thing with your rotary motor clipper. The blade actually moves in 2 directions, so you're getting more cutting strokes, right? So even if I took this off, right, you could actually see inside that little bit of a rotating pivot there, right? And it allows for that blade to move in 2 directions, or both directions, at a really, really fast rate. Okay, so I hope that helps to answer the question.
That did, yeah. You feel good about that. When you're blending, do you start with your lowest guards or for the highest guards? They've seen people do it both ways and they struggle with blending. So
so that's kind of like if I'm working from the top down or from the bottom up. And we're going to get into that within the next couple of weeks. But really, just a broad overview of that, if you guys don't know what that is like if I'm working from the longest point to the shortest point, or if I'm working from the shortest point to the longest point. I base that on the guest. I based it on the density, I base it on the texture of the hair, and I base it on the bone structure. If I have a guest who has an existing, or a guest who has an even density, I'm going to work from the bottom up because it allows for me to expand that transition area like we did earlier today. If I'm working with a guest who has finer hair or lower density, I'm going to work from the top down because I'm able to softly move that hair down into the length. So think of it like this. A buildup of weight in our cutting world is what? It's a graduation. Right? I'm working from the shortest point of the haircut towards the longest point, and I'm able to build that weight from short to long. If I'm working from the top down, I'm removing weight, which in our cutting world is similar to what? It's a layer, right? So it's the exact same thing in that you're looking for the removal of weight when I'm working from the top down, and I'm working from the looking for the buildup of weight when I'm working from the top up. But that's something we're going to definitely cover within the next few weeks. Great question.
I think I have 2 left.
Okay.
Sanitation. So, and we have over in the chat box too. It's so important to them. So obviously even more so right now. Do you have any tips to ensure the clippers and everything is super sanitized?
Yeah. So every guest, every time, there should be you should be spraying down your clippers with whether it be Cool Care, clipper spray, whatever type of clipper spray you have. You want to, number one, make sure you're doing that. Number 2, there should be a new comb for every guest. I can't stress that enough. Combs are cheap, right? These little brushes are cheap as well, right? I buy these 10 or 15 at a time, simply because I want to make sure that I'm providing not only the best service, but also the highest quality of sanitation as well. And especially now, after all of this is over, I feel like in our industry, sanitation is going to be that much more important and different as we move forward. So little things like that, spraying your clippers down on after every guest, using a different comb after every guest, and also always using the sanitation guidelines that we practice already in our schools. Because you'll be surprised when you get out there into the world, there's a lot of people that don't sanitize their stuff as well as they should. So following those guidelines and making sure you keep those beyond school, but also behind the chair as well.
Okay. Thanks, Brandon.
Cool.
Let's see. There's one live question that we'll try to take, and
Okay.
then we'll close out. Let's see here. Allowed to talk for Jennifer. Let's see if we're able to do this. Unmute. Sorry, hold please.
That's cool.
Jennifer, are you able to talk?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, or is it Doug?
This is Doug from Palmer to the School, Reno. Thank you very much.
What's up, Doug?
Hey, what's up, Brandon? Hey, I just want to say, number one, your class was excellent. So I'm zoomed in individually, but I got 57 future professionals who just watched you live with me. They all really enjoyed it. You already answered the question. It came from one of our future professionals about when to use a clipper over comb on overly curly hair. You answered it beautifully. Thank you very much.
All right, thanks, Doug. Appreciate it, man.
And then let's see if we have Julie. Are you able to talk, Julie?
Hi, this is Julie from Palm Mitchell School, Charlotte. How are you?
Hey, how you doing? Good. How you doing?
Good. Thank you so much. This was awesome. I have such a trouble with blending when it comes to barbering, so this is great. But I actually had the question on sanitation, and so I was just wondering, do you actually unscrew the clippers when you're sanitizing between each client?
I don't unscrew the clippers after every single guest. There's a couple things, like behind the chair, I use, you've probably seen it before, canned air. Like, do you use it for like keyboards and things of that nature, right? So you can take something like that and spray and blow all of that hair out inside of the clipper in between guests, and then go back over it with the clipper spray as well. So what that does, number one, is it obviously releases the hair so that there's not a lot of buildup in the tool. And the less buildup there is in the tool, the more efficient it's going to work with cutting hair as well. And then another thing that's really important when cutting with your clippers and keeping them clean and sanitized is cutting on clean hair. So one of the things you want to make sure of is, like, a guest, if they need a shampoo, they need to have the shampoo. So like behind the chair, we shampoo every guest for every service, not only for the sake of the experience, but for the sake of the haircut looking nicer and keeping our tools clean. So I would unscrew my clippers maybe once every couple of weeks, take the blades off, take them off, clean them out, and everything like that. But in between guests, I'm going to use some of that canned air to get all of that hair out and just the clipper spray.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was great.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay, I think we're pretty much set there. So please remember, everybody, that today's session was recorded, and then the slides we're going to have up on Plugged In available with that home play component too, if you guys want to turn that in with your Learning Leader team to get that additional credit. So Brandon, I'll let you close out, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Yeah, thanks. So I just want to thank you guys for logging on. I know this has been an adjustment for you all with continuing. So let me just thank all of you guys for continuing on your journey in hair school, even with all of the stuff that's going on right now. So continue to keep working. If you have any other questions, maybe that you think of, connect with me on Instagram. Like, I will answer your questions. I don't, just those people that leave me on red or whatever. So send me those pictures. Send me some ideas. What would you like to see within these classes? And I'll see you guys on next Thursday. All right. Have a good one.
All right, guys. So that's the end of class today. I will be signing you guys off, but don't forget to do your home play. It will be pushed out on the stream, so it'll just say guest speaker home play. So make sure you do that extra assignment to get that extra hour. And I highly recommend that you guys follow Brandon on his social media. he is a very good communicator. So if you guys have questions about anything, you can always ask him and DM him. But he's here for you guys always to learn. All right. So I will see you guys later, and you guys have a great day.
Hey, Michelle, really quick. So Anna, no, you don't have to stay in Zoom until 12, right? They don't have to.
No, I'm gonna sign it out.
Okay, and then also barbers, I'm available for you guys until 5 p.m. If you have any questions, post them on the stream or on an assignment, or send me an email and I can help you guys out with anything.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Shane. I'm also Cosmos. I will be also here on the stream to help you guys out with any questions, but I do recommend that you email me because I get my emails real quickly. It's the stream that I'm not able to see right away. But if you do have questions on the stream, we can help you out with that. But if you really want to answer really quickly, you can also email me today. I work Monday through Friday. Actually, I work Monday 9 to 5. Tuesday, I work night school. So don't worry about emailing me on Tuesdays. But Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, I work night school as well. So, all right. So you guys have a great day. Thanks, Shay, for helping me out. And I will see you guys soon.